Hello. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. So, hello YouTube world, my name is Nicholas Montez, and you're watching my YouTube channel, The Teenage Movie Critic. Welcome back to another live stream, everybody. Happy New Year's Eve! We made it. It's the final year of 2024. That means 2025 is just around tomorrow. And while we are excited, we have to do one last list before we end the year off. And today, we're going to be celebrating all the movies, both first-time watches and new films that I saw in the month of 2024, in the month of December of 2024. And it's actually been pretty surprising because a lot of the movies that I've been watching, first-time watches, it's been basically a bunch of catching up for, 2024 since September and a little bit of August. I missed some movies that I actually did want to see. So this was just so the last 5-6 days literally after Christmas, I started a whole thing to where I basically was watching movies. And so, and even for I even caught up with some new releases that I missed. So with all that out of the way, we're just gonna go ahead and get started. Real quick before we get started, I just want to let you know, well, first off, I have to edit this first. Let me give you a second. Okay, real quick before we get started, I just want to let y'all know, I know for some of the recent lists that I've done, I haven't, made the movies or added the lists. After I'm done with this live stream, I'm actually going to be going to do that and edit it, so just to let y'all know. But also, come back tomorrow and Thursday and Friday. I'll be doing some more live videos that will be there for a while. Tomorrow I'll be doing my live stream ranking every single film that I saw in the year, first time watches plus new releases. It's gonna be, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be long because the first time watches are much longer than the last few years, so it's gonna be exciting. Then come Thursday, I'm doing a live stream for talking about the last 6 months of the year. And then come Friday, you're going to get a live stream discussing all the movies that are coming out in the year of 2025. And basically, if you're not sure what's coming out this year, I got you. Or you could just look at Wikipedia if you don't want to listen to me. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started. And we're going to kick things off. Okay, so coming in for me, so we're doing first-time watches first because it's the most of them. I've seen 56 films in the first-time watches, and for new releases, I've only seen 11. So we're starting with the first-time watches. Coming from me, number 56, the worst first-time watch that I saw this year was Time Cut. Now, this was a film that came out this year, and I believe in October or September, but it was bad. And I missed it, and I heard about it, and I wanted to watch it, but it was bad. It's kind of like that movie that came out last year, that's Totally Killer. It was like a mixture of Scream, but also Back to the Future. And Time Cut makes it look worse because Totally Killer was a much better film. So, yeah, it comes in last. Let me move this a little bit. Alright, there we go. Number 55, Hot Frosty. This movie, I just know from the title, it's bad. The idea of a hot guy that needs to, that will melt, That's just, the plot is stupid. It at least stars the girl from Mean Girls, not the 2024 one, the one from 2004. And she's good in it, but nothing else. 54, The Witch. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a big, Robert Eggers fan. Mainly because, I don't know, I have never connected to any of his movies. So granted, some of his other movies will be higher on the list a little bit, but never been a big fan of it. But yeah. Number 53, The Hobbit. I forget which one this one is. I don't know the name of the Hobbit movies. The Hobbit, The Battle of the Armies. Once again, I'm not a big fan of the Hobbit movies, but this one in particular was fine. 52, Hellboy the Crooked Man. Once again, I started watching the Hellboy movies this month, and I liked some of them, but others, eh. And then 51, we have Hellboy animated Sword of Storms. It was a fine animated Hellboy movie. Okay, we're going to go ahead and head on into the top 50s. Let's go ahead and edit that. Okay, coming for your number 50, Heretic. Had no idea what to think about this movie. We'll move on. 49, Cuckoo. It was a solid thriller. I enjoyed it enough, but that's all I can really say about it. 48. Wait. I thought... Hold on, let me fix this one. Alright, 48, Your Monster, whatever. 47, Conclave. 46, Emilia Pérez. 45, Hellboy. You get the gist. I'm not a big fan of most of these movies. I thought they were fine. That's all. 43, Megalopolis. But 42, I accidentally put Dirty Angels in here. So, I'm going to need to fix something real quick. So yeah, I've seen over 55 movies this year, so let me go ahead and edit that real quick. 55 through 51. Anyway, so yeah, but 41 is Dear Santa. A lot of people said they didn't like it because it was just off. It was meant to be awful. I kind of enjoyed it. I mean, Jack Black is a scene stealer, so I can forgive it for that. And so yeah, that closes out the top 50s. So let's go ahead and get started with the top 40s. All right. All right, so number 40. Number 40 is The Northman. Another Robert Eggers movie. Everybody says this was like one of the best films he's done. I didn't really get it. I thought it was alright. 39, It Ends With Us. Solid film. I saw it for the plot, of course, Blake Lively. It was fine. Nothing else to really talk about, though. 38, Azrael. Oh, yeah, I thought this film was okay. Um, and that goes into the next one with 37, Never Let Go. I thought it was fine. And with 36 here on out, this is where I feel like films actually start to get a little bit better for me. With Never Let Go, Halle Berry. No, wait, 36 is The Lighthouse. Probably my favorite of Robert Eggers' films, and I'm still yet to see Nosferatu. 35, Strange Darling. Solid thriller. 34, That Christmas. Everyone was praising it. I thought it was fine. 33, Hellboy animated Blood and Iron. It's the better Hellboy animated film. 32, Things Will Be Different. And then 31, Meet Me Next Christmas. So, it's definitely getting a lot better with some of these films. All right, let's head into the top 30. Um, 30 is The Substance. I heard a lot of good things about this movie and I wanted to watch it. It lives up to expectations. 29, Piece by Piece. I am so surprised I missed this because my two friends went to go see it. They liked it. And, it was good. It's basically, a documentary biopic, a Lego documentary biopic about Pharrell Williams. And it's a good movie. It's good. It's definitely one of the weaker Lego movies, but I still think it's good. 28, 1992. I was very interested in this film because, I like Tyrese Gibson. I like these types of movies. They go into history when we're learning about the history of Black people. And it was pretty good. 27, My Old Ass. Surprisingly really good. Aubrey Plaza is good in it. Is hot in it. And the story is actually kind of emotional. And it's also pretty funny. 26, Hellboy. I think we'll just go ahead and 26 and 25, Hellboy and Hellboy to the Golden Army. I think both of these films were easily the best of the Hellboy movies. And granted, there's not too much to talk about here just because, honestly, I love the way Guillermo del Toro directed it. I love the way that he was able to design a bunch of these costumes and characters. My biggest issue here, the story could be a lot better, though, so these two films are a little too long. They're like 2 hours long. Make it an hour and 30 minutes. It doesn't need to be an hour long, 2 hours long. Come on. 24, Piano Lesson. Really good film. I like the music, and I like Samuel Jackson in here. 23, Beetlejuice. I probably shouldn't have said that, but I probably should have just said Beetlejuice too. But the movie, it's actually really good. Like, I think it pops with so much energy that makes me like it a lot more. Because I wasn't a big fan of the first Beetlejuice, so yeah, we'll go there. 22, Saturday Night. I honestly thought this was a pretty interesting movie to learn about how the first Saturday Night Live skit was made. And I thought that was just something really cool. And then finally, 21, we have Uncut Gems. Basically not Samuel Jackson, the Adam Sandler sort of, prostitute movie. I thought it was pretty good. And Adam Sandler is really good in it. All right, now let's head into the top 20. Let's go. So coming from number 20, we have Smile 2. I actually thought this film worked a lot better for me than it did because I wasn't a big fan of the first Smile, but then this one comes in and it actually does something a little bit more unique and distinct, and I just liked it a lot more. 19, The Killer's Game. it's just a solid action movie. Like, Dave Bautista, Scott Adkins, Terry Crews, just a bunch of fun people. 18, The Greatest of All Time. So, I know this isn't technically something I would watch, but Sean Chandler watched it. He likes these types of movies, so I kind of wanted to join in the conversation of what's it like watching these movies in all these Bollywood movies, and they're surprisingly really entertaining. That they have this different production style in the way they make their films that is just so exciting, whether it's the dance numbers or the action sequences, that it's different from like normal Hollywood movie making, and I just really enjoy all that stuff in these movies. And I mean, when it comes like, because I remember one of the first ones I remember seeing was, I believe, Happy New Year, which was the first film I saw in 2023, and also RRR, which got nominated, which won Best Song at the Oscars last year. But I don't have too much to say about Bollywood movies just because they're not the normal stuff that I watch, but they're good. I've liked all the ones I've seen. 17, The Apprentice. Basically the Donald Trump movie. Without getting into political views of this movie, I thought Sebastian Stan did really great as Donald Trump. And I also like the way that they told his a story of him. Basically, it's the Donald Trump movie. And I really like the way they did it. So that's where I'll leave it for now. 16, Moonlight. So this was one of Barry Jenkins' movies because, Mufasa came out, so gotta support my boy Barry Jenkins on his new project. But I never seen Moonlight until this month, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was a great film. I loved the story, and I liked the performances. It was pretty great. 15, If Beale Street Could Talk, possibly one of my favorite Barry Jenkins movies. I think that this was the film that really just proved of why he was worthy to direct Mufasa, and that he's able to direct a story, he's able to do characters well, and he also knows how to add color to scenes, in which I think was all around really good. Number 14, Here. This is the new Robert Zemeckis movie. I was planning on doing a Robert Zemeckis ranking, but, there's so much time that's been lost that there's no time to do that. But I thought it was actually very good. I saw the Rotten Tomatoes score. It's not that great, but I don't care. I loved it. But I personally loved, I just love that it's this film that just takes place in one shot. That's just something so cool to me. And likewise, I just like that it passes through time, and we're seeing this family with like Paul Bettany and Tom Hanks. And I also like that it's a reunion of the two cast members from Forrest Gump, which is another great Robert Zemeckis film. And so this one just, for me, it nailed it. Maybe it's just the nostalgia of like older movies that Tom Hanks used to be in, and Paul Bettany just fits into those types of movies if he was in one. So I guess that's just me though. Number 13, We Live in Time. So I set this on the 2024 missed films list yesterday, but so if you don't know, this movie wasn't the way that this movie happened was that last year at the 2023 Oscars, we saw one of the presenters was Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh, and we saw their chemistry. Not only did we see their chemistry, but Hollywood saw their chemistry and was like, you know what? Their chemistry at the Oscars was so good. We're gonna go make a movie. We're gonna go make a movie with them, and we're gonna make them the two leads of our movie. And that's how We Live in Time was born. And for me, part of the reason why this movie works so well for me is that, Andrew Garfield is one of my favorite actors, and Florence Pugh, she started to become an up-and-comer because, my introduction to her was in Black Widow, and then now she's she was in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish as Goldilocks. She's in this movie. I'm trying to think of other things. She was in Oppenheimer. I believe she was also in Dune, but in Dune 2, but not as much. And then, of course, she's going to be in other MCU projects. But she's started becoming an up-and-comer, and she was also in that movie with Harry Styles that I haven't seen yet, but I've heard mixed reviews on it. But this movie just fits so perfectly because Andrew Garfield is my favorite actor, and so you also have another person that is another good actress, and if you're going to pair them together, it's the best of both worlds, but at the same time, the story was also really good, too. So it's not just the performances that work, it's the story, too. So I really liked it. Number 12, Christmas Eve on Sesame Street. So, if you don't know, I did my Christmas movie watch list this past December, and I wanted to watch some Christmas Sesame Street films that I haven't seen before. And Elmo Saves Christmas and Christmas Eve on Sesame Street were two films I haven't seen. And we'll talk about Elmo Saves Christmas in a little bit, but as the first sort of Christmas special for Sesame Street, I thought it was great. It like summed up of, if you were to do a Sesame Street Christmas special for the first 9 years of Sesame Street when it first came out, of when it was first around, how would you do it? And, you basically have all these characters. They go for ice skating, and you have Oscar kind of messing with Big Bird, basically like saying, "What? I don't think there is a Santa Claus. How's he gonna get all down the chimney?" And you have this story that like progresses where you have like the Muppets kind of asking kids, how does Santa get down the chimney? And I think that's really good, to where it really does feel like another episode of Sesame Street that happens to be Christmas themed. And then also, like, there's just these little segments that they have in this movie that fits really well, like the Ernie and Bert getting them a present, which I do think it's a little weird that they're both getting each other presents on Christmas Eve. That's very late, but it's the 1970s. It's fine. Or even the segment where Cookie Monster's trying to contact Santa, but he just keeps eating everything. It's hilarious. So, overall, it's delightful. I do wish it added a little more, but once again, I'm not as fond with the earlier versions of Sesame Street, but I still really liked it. Still loved it. And closing out this section of the list is 11, Terrifier 2. So, we had a new film, so I wanted to watch Terrifier 3, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Never watched the other Terrifier movies besides the first one and All Hallows Eve. Decided to watch Terrifier 2, and I understood why everybody loves it. It is an absolute bloodbath, but not only is it just an absolute bloodbath, it is a film that does really well with horror. I mean, with exploring this lore in creating something that is unique with its story and its lore and its characters. It was just something really interesting that I thought was really good. Alright, so we're going to take a break from first-time watches, and we're going to go ahead and talk about the new releases that I saw this month. Okay, so coming from it, so we're basically just going to do this list. So number 11 is The Return. Fine movie. Let's see. But not really anything special. Honestly, I didn't necessarily hate any of the movies on this list, but none of them were really great either. Well, some were great though. Then number 10, Y2K. A fine film that stars the guy from Deadpool 2 and the guy from It. It's okay. 9, Lord of the Rings, War of the Herm. It's another Lord of the Rings movie. It just happens to be animated and in this anime style. It's fine. Number 8, Dirty Angels. Thought it was okay. Nothing else to really say about that. Number 7, Night Bitch. So this one was actually kind of interesting because this was my last film I saw in the year of 2024. It is a film I missed, but it came out like December 6th, but I didn't know about it until then. It stars Amy Adams, and basically she is a mother that is just coming into motherhood. And basically the idea of the film is that she's slowly starting to realize that she may be turning into a dog. And the premise of this is kind of fun, but it's also kind of weird in the way they execute it, to where she's like barking at people, she's like eating someone's burger. When she turns into a dog, she eats a cat. It's a little weird in the way they write the film, but I liked the premise. I thought it was kind of cool. It was kind of entertaining, so I liked it. And as I was looking at the poster, I'm like, oh, so this is probably gonna be a little kids movie. It's not a kids movie. Don't go into it being a kids movie. It's not a kids movie, and it's on Disney Plus already. Like December 6th, it's already. Though I'm pretty sure it might have been. It's from Searchlight Studios, so obviously it's going to be on here, but it probably would have been in theaters already, unless it's a Hulu film. So I don't know. Number 6, Carry On. This is surprisingly one of the most talked about films on Netflix this past month. I mean, granted, it's really good, but I didn't really expect it to be the best movie of Netflix this past month. But basically, it stars Taron Egerton as he's like a TSA, person in an airport, and it's kind of like Die Hard, except all these other things. Some of the action is kind of good. I liked the thrillers aspect of it. It was just a solid film for me. Okay, number 5. This is going to be controversial because I know a lot of you hate this movie right now. Number 5 is Kraven the Hunter. I know what you all are thinking. You're going to hate me in the comments. You're going to bash my head open. I don't care. I'm not going to lie. I don't see the hate for Kraven the Hunter. Now, I understand the hate for Morbius and Madam Web, but for Kraven the Hunter, I don't really understand what was so bad about this movie. For me, now I'm not saying it's like a top tier movie or anything. It's not even close to being as good as like the Spider-Man movies, but it's kind of good. Like the story here, like all the stuff that Morbius tried to do with like telling the backstory of him and his brother, that stuff I feel like works here. Because Kraven the Hunter, it's one part superhero movie, it's one part gangster movie, and then it's one part comic book film. When it gets into the superhero elements, he's the villain of Spider-Man. And, well, one of the villains of Spider-Man. And it kind of works in that light. It has a bunch of Spider-Man characters with Rhino and the Chameleon. But then also, the gangster aspect of it I thought was kind of interesting. And even like the backstory with him and his brother, I thought was kind of good. And him getting bitten by that lion, which that lion looked really interesting, I thought was kind of well told. And telling the story of like his first kill and all that stuff, that was interesting. And the action that led to it was kind of cool. I do wish they did the rhino design a little bit better, but overall, it was a solid film. I don't get why everybody hated it. Maybe I need to rewatch it again, but I liked it. I thought the action was solid, and it was just a solid movie. So, that's where I'll put it. Number 4, The Order. Solid little thriller film. Solid action. Nothing else too much to say. Number 3, Werewolves. Really enjoyed this movie, actually. It's practical. It feels like The Purge, but with werewolves. And it stars Frank Grillo. I thought I was going to love it, but I just ended up liking it. It was really good, though. And now we get to our top 2, the runner-ups for December of 2024. Number 2 is Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Now, a lot of you have this as like your number one. This was the film for you for 2024. Most of you, this was like your most anticipated film of 2024. I understand. I had my own film of 2024 that I wanted to see, which we'll talk about in a minute. What do I think of Sonic 3? I did love it. I think it was really good. I think it's another solid sequel in the Sonic universe, in the Sonic movies universe. I think the way they handled the characters were really fun. I love seeing 2 Jim Carreys. I love a lot of the action. I liked Shadow the Hedgehog with Keanu Reeves' performance. I liked the story they came up with in here and making it just a little bit tad darker and more eventful in some ways. I have a few issues with this film, though. It is not perfect. I think this movie with certain things like Shadow's backstory and the gun organization, this movie needed a little bit more development to develop that stuff a little bit more. Because I think the way that they are going about and exploring that, they needed a little bit more time to explore it. Other thing to talk about here, everybody was talking so greatly about the third act. I did not feel emotionally connected to the third act. Like, we have Robotnik and Shadow dying. In which, here's the thing. Like, everybody is praising that because, and everybody's praising that. But we know Shadow's coming back. So it's like, it's not really the most bad thing. We don't even know. I'm hoping that Shadow saved Robotnik, and maybe we can get more Robotnik in Sonic the Hedgehog 4. But that's just me. But also, I was just completely disappointed with Sonic the Hedgehog 3's third act, as it wasn't even all that exciting. Like, in my opinion, the only good thing about that third act was the 2 Robotniks fighting and getting that betrayal there. And kind of creating a different story for Robotnik in this film I thought was cool. And the fact that I'm enjoying 2 Jim Carreys slapping each other with nanotech hands rather than enjoying 2 super hedgehogs fighting robots in space. To me, that was just a little weird. It was enjoyable, it was fun, but that kind of third act could have been way better. And the fact that, like, the whole plot of the third act is basically trying to stop a laser beam, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, it kind of has some emotional connection, but not really. But that's where I'll really land on it for now. And then also, I kind of wish there were more characters in the film. Like, don't get me wrong, I like Shadow, I like the other Robotnik. I liked seeing all of our favorite characters again. But I thought this was going to be like the fan service-y event film for Sonic fans. We're going to be getting a bunch of new characters. But this movie both made me appreciate the first 2 Sonic movies more, but it also makes me excited for Sonic 4, as, we're getting Amy in here, and maybe we'll actually get a lot more characters in the film and slowly get into more of these films. So, we'll just have to wait and see, though. Because I do like this franchise, and I think, once again, I will say it's probably the weakest Sonic movie for me, but I still think it's really solid and good. But in first place, my favorite December film of 2024 is Mufasa, The Lion King. Now, I'm going to kid you not, I think that this movie is great. I don't think it's perfect, but it's really great. What I love about this film is I love the special effects. The movie is gorgeous. I love the story that they came up with here. Barry Jenkins did a pretty great job in directing this movie. I love the way that the movie feels like a documentary at times, and the way that the movie is shot. I really like the music. I've been listening to the music for over a month now, and the soundtrack still hits. The way that they handle the characters in the film with Mufasa's journey, Taka's journey, seeing a younger version of Sarabi, Rafiki, and Zazu in this film was great. I liked our villain Kyros. There's a lot to like in here, but at the center, I can acknowledge its flaws. And I try to just say they're just nitpicks, but, and maybe that's just me because I'm a massive Lion King fan and I really want to like this movie. And I will admit, there are things, I've seen, like, storyboards of this movie that probably would make this movie 10 times better and may even be my top 10 of the year. But unfortunately, it's not. But, the movie is still great. I still had a great time with it. And, yeah, it's top tier for me. So that is it for the December list. Let's go back to the first time watches. Let's see where we are at, time. Next, alright, let's go ahead and get started talking about the final stretch of this video. Hold up with me. Alright, coming from number 10 for the first time watches is Terrifier 3. Once again, we just talked about Terrifier 2. I love this film, and especially that it's Christmas themed. So, like, we got Thanksgiving, it's the horror Thanksgiving movie. Now we got Terrifier 3, which is the Christmas horror film. Awesome. Though, technically, I think that title would go to Black Christmas, but I haven't seen that one. So maybe I'll watch that next year. 9, Little Miss Sunshine. So this one was actually sort of a recommendation from one of my friends. Because I guess it was a new friend I was talking to, and they were like, I noticed you're like a movie fan, and I wanted to see if you have seen my favorite movie. And she asked me, and she said Little Miss Sunshine. I was like, I haven't seen it, and I'm like, well, if she says it's a great movie, then maybe I will like it. And so I want to go see it, and it was actually very good. The performances in here from a young Paul Dano and Steve Carell were amazing. Like going into the film, I was so surprised with Steve Carell. I was like, wait, why is this how it's gonna be in the film for him? Like, he's just gonna be so mute and quiet. He's not gonna talk. But then he starts talking again. I'm like, oh yeah, but this is still one of his best roles for me. At least when he's not playing Gru from Despicable Me. But I also like the way that I like that it's a road trip movie. The characters are kind of fun. They have a little bit of depth to them, and there is some kind of emotion throughout this movie. The third act I wasn't a big fan of, but overall, I thought it was a solid film, and thank you, my dear friend, for recommending this movie to me. Number 8, Anora. A film that was praised for a long time. I mean, obviously, you know, I said this in the 2024 Mist video. It's a little weird to say that horniness is a thing to make you like a movie, but that's just me. But other than that, I think the movie itself, it has good performances all around. I like the story that basically it's a prostitute and, you know, basically stuff that goes on in real life and stuff like this can happen in real life. The girl says way too much curse words in the film, but overall, I still loved it. Number 7, Jingle All the Way. So this was another film I watched on my Christmas list, and I honestly had a lot of fun with it. This movie was so much fun. Arnold Schwarzenegger, I mean, I've never seen anything else with him other than Terminator 2, and this movie was so much fun, man. Every single, like, sequence is, like, just so much fun. He fights elves in a store. The movie just populates with so much funness. I loved what they did with this film. It was just so funny. Just everything about it was just fantastic, man. And it kind of feels like that's kind of something that would happen on Christmas. You know, that's how people are on actual Christmas Day. Number 6, Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. I'm going to talk more about this film tomorrow, but basically, you know, I had no idea what, like, I have no connection to Superman or Christopher Reeve in any sort of fashion. The only Superman movie I've ever seen was Man of Steel. That's the only movie I've ever watched. And so I didn't watch this going into it because I'm a fan of Christopher Reeve or Superman. I watched it because the movie looked interesting to me. And for me, that's exactly what this movie did. It was very interesting to where we got to learn about how Christopher Reeve inspired people as Superman, but also how he inspired people who are handicapped. And I thought that was a very good story that we got from here. And it's quite emotional, as it's definitely one of the best documentaries of the year. Number 5, Elmo Saves Christmas. So this one I thought was overall very solid. And that basically, I think that's one of the things I think the Sesame Street films have been able to do with some of their Christmas specials is they've been able to kind of tell different and unique stories with their characters. Of course, Christmas Eve on Sesame Street, it's not really based off anything. It's just its own story, and it's doing it with the charm of Sesame Street. But with Elmo Saves Christmas, it basically does something of how would Sesame Street be like in that generation. Basically, it's doing that story of what would happen if Christmas was every day, but instead of it being the same day and we're seeing it like December 25th every single day, instead it's Christmas Christmas all throughout the year. That like Christmas is all year round. And to me, that was an interesting concept because I don't think we've ever seen that in a film before. And we get to see throughout all of the generations and why exactly Christmas needs to only be in December and on December 25th. That's the only day it needs to be on. It can't be during spring, summer, or fall because it just doesn't fit. And part of the way they make this story work is you see that even in springtime, they're like, you can, Easter Bunny, he's not selling eggs, but he has to sell, Christmas candy or whatever. But then once you get to summer, everybody starts to get a little tired of it, and they just kind of want to get back to their normal lives because all they're doing is just paying for new gifts for people, and people can't see their friends and all that stuff. And then you get to fall and all that stuff, and then when it gets to the actual, like, season and day of Christmas, it's not really all that exciting. And you start to see people are depressed. They're closing down their shops. Big Bird, he's crying because he can't see Mr. Snuffy. It's pretty emotional, honestly. I almost kind of cried. Like, I felt for Big Bird, and it's crazy of how much pain Elmo brought to this town. Wow. And it just makes you it makes you realize waiting for the greatest things is better than just getting it all at once. And that's why for certain things, like, yeah, I'm tired of waiting, but it's better to wait for great things because they will be better when they come. So I personally loved it. Number 4, Steal the Naughty List. I thought this was a fantastic movie. This is a stop-motion animated film that came out last month, and I loved it. Like, man, it also stars my favorite YouTuber in Brian Hull, who has been doing some voice work in some movies. Like, he was actually Dracula in Hotel Transylvania 4. He was also in A Fairy Tale Ever After or whatever. He played a dog in that movie, I think. He definitely wasn't a dog movie though. But like I first off, I love that it feels a lot like those stop motion animated films that we had in in the older days during Christmas time. But also I like that they kind of created a new type of story for Christmas, and essentially saying this is, and essentially being like this movie, and essentially being like there is no good or naughty list. Santa Claus doesn't give to the people, doesn't give presents or cold to the naughty or nice kids. He gives to those who need it most and need to be forgiven. And therefore, this group of misfits, two snowmen, a moose, a polar bear, and a skiing person, they don't need to be taken off the naughty list. They need to be forgiven. And I think for me, that was a solid story that they created here. But also, not only do they have a solid story, good stop motion animation, and fun characters, but the movie's also kind of funny. Like, there's a scene when they're trying to go around like wolves, and one of the guys cuts off the wolf's tail with like their ice skating rink thing. And when the wolf starts talking, he starts saying all of this stuff like, "Hey man, why'd you cut off my tail? I was sleeping, dude." And then like I'm like, well, I was not expecting that reaction from that wolf. But then when he starts trying to get in to get the crew, he's like, "I'm a Miss Old Lady," and he's pretending to be all these people. I'm like, oh my god, this is hilarious. So yeah, this movie, it has good animation, it has fun characters, it has a fun story, and it has solid humor. This is a new Christmas classic for me. Number 3, Klaus. This was this was my Christmas movie for the year that I watched before Christmas Day. I absolutely loved it. I personally loved that essentially it's basically about this postman who has to go to this Smedensburg, this place that basically everyone hates each other and there is no shine of Christmas spirit anywhere. And basically, our main character, played by James Schwartzman, or Schwartzman I'll just call him, he hates this and he just wants to go back to his normal life. And so he basically tries to do all these things so that way he can just get out of there quickly, since he's trying to inspire people to sign mail, so he intends them to go to school. He wants people to do all this and get forgiven and all that stuff. But throughout all of this, he is kind of being selfish about it, but in a way, he's kind of making the town a little bit better, in that he's making kids go to school. You see the place that had all those rotting fish, and instead, as it progresses, the teacher actually starts to become a little nicer. She starts to look nicer. The school starts to look a little nicer. But at the same time, I also kind of like that it's an origin story for Santa Claus. I kind of like that. And J.K. Simmons was a perfect Santa Claus in my books. And I liked that it kind of had a little bit of emotion in there, and that Klaus made toys for children because he couldn't have children of his own. He made children happy because he couldn't have children of his own. When you think about it like that, that is an emotional story that I think fits for this version of Santa Claus. Now, I will say, I do wish they dived more deeper into the Santa Claus, like, story, and, like, exploring that, and basically, if Santa Claus died, how is he coming back, to give presents to everyone? Is there, like, a workshop? Did he pass away? Like, what is the story here? So I'm still a little interested in how that's gonna happen. And like, so basically, people that are coming into villagers' homes, it's a ghost? Is that what that is? Like, that sounds a little creepy. So it feels like it's changing a little bit of the mythology of Santa Claus here, but overall, I absolutely loved it. At number 2, we have Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. So I actually have never seen this movie before. I've never watched any of these stop motion animated films that would come out around Christmas time on like TV or something. And after watching it, I was like, I now understand why a film like this is beloved and why these certain Christmas classics work. And that first off, I knew nothing about about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer story. The only thing I kind of knew was that essentially I had a feeling that it was going to do with something that about the crash of 64. So this movie was released in 1964, and basically Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is the character to lead Santa's sleigh. And I thought that was an exciting plot line. Though they do that at the end, but they don't do it in the way that you would expect. There is no crash of 64. I would say there is a storm. It's actually a storm of 64. But also, I also like the way they did the story of Rudolph and basically making him a misfit just because of his red nose. But I also like that it was exploring a story of misfits. There's this elf that wants to be there's this elf that doesn't want to make toys. He wants to be a dentist. And then you have Rudolph and the dentist boy. They explore this island of lost toys who basically were forgotten. Santa threw them away, and they've spent many Christmases not being able to go into Santa's sleigh and being delivered to kids all over the world. And it's a little stupid because why would that happen? Because we already have talking reindeer. Why are we going to have talking toys? I mean, think about early Toy Story if you think about it. But I thought it was just a really solid story. I do wish they found a way to include the Crash 64 where Santa Claus just happens to be, he crashed somewhere and he's trying to get his thing back on and he can't really do that. But then Rudolph is here, but he helped a great deal of doing stuff. Why not guide my sleigh tonight? I think the way they did it here is good, but I wish they found a way to actually include the Crash 64, to include it in some way. But my favorite film of the first time watches of December 2024 is the best Christmas pageant ever. So, yeah, that is, for me, I loved this movie. It's one of my favorite films of 2024. But at the same time, what this movie did so well is it kind of feels like one of those classic Christmas movies. But one of the things I really liked about it is that it had a lot of heart. It was kind of funny. It had a good story. And I loved the storytelling in here and the way it was done. And it also just makes me a little bit more... I liked it. It made me a little bit more interested to get right with God. Not saying I'm going to be going to church or Sunday school or anything like that. But it makes me want to learn about Jesus and more and kind of respect him a lot more. I like that they kind of point out that the actual story of how Jesus was born is a little bit dumb in the way they do it. So other than that, I liked, and I think the way they portrayed the story of Jesus in the film was perfect. So I think that this movie was amazing. Definitely one of my top 10 favorite films. If you want to see my top 10 favorite films of the year, just go check my Instagram. I posted both lists for first time watches and 2024 movies. And that is it for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. This is my final video of the year. And yeah, come back tomorrow and you're going to be seeing my ranking of every single movie that I've seen in the year of 2024 for first time watches and movies that I've seen in the year of 2025. In the movies I've seen it in the year of 2024. And then I'll also upload my first movie review for 2024 for New Year's, Snowpiercer, and then I'll be doing my top 5 most anticipated movies of the year, as well as my top 5 most anticipated first-time watches that I'm excited to watch this year. And that'll be all it for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. If you could like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next video. Happy New Year, stay safe, and I'll see you guys tomorrow with the next live.